You Booked It, episode 52. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainment professionals 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to have a successful entertainment career. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainment professionals. We're here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community, where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app, where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating, and review. And to show our appreciation for your fingers crossed 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. Okay, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Antonio Granda Manzano. Are you ready for this, Antonio?
So ready. Let's do it.
All right, man. Antonio is originally from La Habana, Cuba, where he started his artistic career at the age of 8, watching his mother perform in restaurants and hotels around the city. At 18, he moved to Istanbul, Turkey, where he had to adapt to an absolutely different culture and learn a new language while still developing English, because Spanish is, of course, his native language. He has performed on countless stages across Turkey with many internationally known pop artists, fashion designers, and photographers. At 26, he relocated to the USA, where he has been seen in productions such as Coco Adios, Saturday Night Fever, Divas by Frank Marino, and Aussie Heat. He has also been featured as a model in various fashion shows and commercial work. Antonio is grateful for the opportunities that have come his way and is thrilled to say he's living and experiencing more than he ever dreamed possible. Antonio, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, who you are, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Of course. Well, I am, first of all, a dancer, professional dancer and model. And something I did not mention, or I actually do not mention to a lot of people, is that in my years of practicing Wushu Kung Fu, which is a Chinese martial art, I was also an athlete and instructor. So I used to teach, very, very little kids, young adults, teenagers, elderly people. So yeah, also kind of an instructor back in the day.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I would say in the last 2-3 years is when I've been doing more modeling, but dancing has been for most of my life my main profession. Besides that, well, I'm just like everybody else, a regular person. I love doing hobbies. I love being at home. I love gathering with friends and just doing fun activities, outdoor stuff, just like hiking, going to a lake, the ocean, stuff like that.
Yeah, perfect. Well, let's move on to our next section here. And Antonio, look, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everybody?
My favorite quote, I honestly believe in this one, and it's something that I've learned. It took me a long time to actually learn, and I would say that everything happens for a reason. Why everything happens for a reason? Most of us do not understand, how certain things happen, why they happen, and we just remain in this state of wonder. Why didn't I get this job? Why didn't I get to travel somewhere? Why didn't I get to see this person? Why didn't this thing that I wanted to happen, but it didn't? Everything happens for a reason. If you didn't book a job, it just wasn't meant to be for you. If you didn't go on a trip, you weren't meant to be on that plane. You weren't meant to be on that place on that time. So you just gotta go with the flow. You have to understand that some things are just meant to happen in a way and a time where it's supposed to be on the right time for you. Pushing things sometimes it can create a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, especially on ourselves, because we want something so bad that we push it and then we kind of mess it up, just to say it in a way.
I love that you said, look, you don't want to stress about anything. And you're right, because being caught up in trying to make something happen that really isn't looking like it's going to happen can absolutely put more pressure, more stress on us than we really need. And while, of course, yeah, you have to always be prepping and preparing and training and putting yourself in the best possible position to book that gig or accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish, there is some point where you just have to let it go, right? And see what the world
Absolutely.
gives you.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, let's move on to this next section. And Antonio, of course, you are an entertainer. I am an entertainer. And I think you'd agree that this industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries in existence. And you know as well as I that in order to create and to have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, of course, yeah, there is an outrageous amount of fun and excitement being on stage, being an entertainer, there are also our fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures we are going to experience and we're going to have to move forward through. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Oh my God, what a topic. Yeah, I definitely experienced challenges and obstacles. Personally, it was for me, I would say, my immigration status. As you already know, I come from a small island in the Caribbean and I moved to Istanbul when I was about 18. Moving to Istanbul was not a easy transition. First of all, I became immediately an immigrant. I'm living in a very different country, different people, different culture, different language. Everything's different. So you have to adapt and you have to learn new things that your entire life has not been just present. It's not part of your life. So for me, once becoming a dancer, since I started pretty late in my life as an entertainer, being a Cuban citizen was absolutely a obstacle when it came to booking some jobs sometimes. Most of the time, when I started working with these famous pop artists in Turkey, they would have concerts, shows abroad. Most of them were in Turkey, but they will also travel to Europe. Just like in Germany, there is a very big community of Turkish people. So they would go to Amsterdam, Berlin, Switzerland, several cities in Europe where there are, like I said, a very big communities of Turkish people. And of course, they will always bring their dancers with them. And back in the day when I was still a dancer for Murat Boz, which is a very big singer right now in Turkey, I had the opportunity to go and perform with him in a lot of stages around the country. But then when it came to that point where I had to leave the country, that was an obstacle for me. I did require a Schengen visa, which is something a lot of people don't know. For people that do not belong to the European community or do not live there, were not born there, you need a Schengen visa if you're not an American citizen, or I would say also English. So yeah, that was an obstacle for me. It was heartbreaking because I mean, back then, of course, I was much younger. I had a bigger fire inside of me. I wanted to perform, perform, perform. I wanted to just dance and showcase myself as much as I could. And what a better way to do this internationally? That I mean, traveling for dancing, it's one of the most amazing things I've experienced in my career. So not being able to do that was absolutely heartbreaking and just an obstacle that I couldn't really overcome back then. That's basically the reason, or one of the reasons, why I decided to move to USA. Once moving here and acquiring a green card or citizenship, then it would allow me to be way more free when it came to traveling internationally for work.
Absolutely. And you've managed to get your green card and everything at this point?
I did. I did. That is a life success for me.
Fantastic. Congratulations. We had to do the whole process
Thank you.
for my wife, and it is full on, but I'm glad you've gotten through it and you got it.
Oh my gosh, it's such a process. It's such a process. It's long, it's intimidating, it's scary, but once you got it, you got it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, thank you, and congratulations to your wife as well.
Thank you. Well, let's move on to this next section, to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living, or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing in the entertainment industry. Tell us about that.
Oh my gosh. Wow. I've had many of those moments, to be honest. But I'm going to say that my first one ever was when I booked this job for, again, the same artist that I mentioned a while ago, Murat Boz, back in Istanbul, Turkey. It was very unexpected just because back then, well, I was being an instructor and I was training for myself, as I mentioned, through Kung Fu, Wushu. And I did still, even though I moved to Istanbul and I was living in a whole different place, I still wanted to keep practicing my sport. I wanted to become an international champion. I wanted to represent my country still, but it was very, very difficult to do it living in a different country. To be able to do that, I would have had to have a permission from my president, from the Kung Fu president of the federation in Cuba, which was my teacher, or I would have to become a Turkish citizen to be able to compete internationally. So, because it's just something that I saw years ahead. And when you're an athlete, you cannot just lose years of your life. You have to do it now or it's never. You're young now,
Right.
you have to do it now. So it would take a long time. So that's the reason why I kind of decided to take this hobby, which was dancing at the moment, and just make it work somehow. To In a way, I needed for dancing to become a job, so it would provide for myself and my family. So I started going to dance classes, hip hop dance classes, and what a coincidence! One of the choreographers that I was taking class from was a friend of my friend. So she talked to her about me and my need of taking dancing to the next level. And she was very kind to me. There was a TV dance competition going on. And she had these dancers with her that she was getting this routine ready for the competition. So she invited me to rehearse with them, and she was just observative with me. She wanted to see if I was able to move in the same way as these other dancers were moving, and see if I could be part of that dance competition some way. It didn't really happen, but she was very impressed with me. She saw, oh my gosh, you can actually move very well. Have you taken classes before? I truly didn't have that training back then. It was just a natural thing that I had inside of me. Since I come from Cuba,
Yeah.
it's a very, musical, cultural, full kind of place.
Hmm.
Anywhere you go, there's music, dancing going on. So she immediately made me part of the group, and I was thrilled. I did not even know what to say. I was very, very, very surprised that she liked me. Right after that, I would say a few weeks after that, is when Murat Boss's audition comes up. Thanks to her, Sanem Demirkay, I have to mention her name because this is a person I really, really I owe a lot in my dance career, because she actually pushed me. She told me, you have to come to this audition. You have to come. You have to come. He has to see you. I went there. I did the combo. I would say not as well as the other dancers that were there, that were actual dancers that have been probably dancing since they were 5, 6 year olds.
Yeah.
But once they asked us to do our solos, then I had to. I There was no other way for me to do an actual dance routine. So what I did was kung fu routine. They found it very strong. They found it very artistic, and they chose me. When I found out that I was going to be in the cast for Brad Boss, I was. I honestly did not even know what I was getting into. it
Yeah, of
was
course.
it was surprising. It was surprising, and I actually got to meet the artist on the day of my first concert, right after I went on stage and started hitting the first steps, which was kind of it was very strange to me the way it happened. But once I realized I was on stage with this person, and these thousands of people were there just for him, and I was part of that whole show, I mean, that was extremely, extremely, extremely satisfying. So yeah, that was one of them. And I would say the first one. Yeah,
Beautiful. And I can imagine you got there and you're like, wow, I have arrived. This is what I am meant to be doing with my life.
absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Just like that.
I love that. Well, let's piggyback on that question and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be a part of it. What was going on in your life? And what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
This was a job that once I got, it literally changed my life. I just moved to Vegas and I've been here for 2 months. I joined the program, the retaining program at the Rio Hotel, which was through Best Agency. And I wasn't really sure exactly what I was getting into again. I thought I was going to be performing on some stage in some kind of show and then serving cocktails, but it was more about serving cocktails than performing. So it was it was surprising to me. But then I was told that Frank Marino was holding auditions for male dancers. I did not know what the show was about. I did not know just anything about the show. But it was male dancers. And I know that Vegas do require male dancers badly. So I said, okay, let's give it a shot. I'm going to go and see what happens. I got there, we did the audition, everything went well. Right after the audition was over, right after we finished the combos, well, Frank Assistance calls me and he says, you were very good. You were someone to look at on stage. We would like to speak to you. So I said, of course, absolutely. A couple of days after that, I get a offer. And I was wow, I was a little bit overwhelmed, a little bit surprised. I was actually very, very happy because I said to myself, oh my God, I just got to Las Vegas. I've been here for only 2 months and I'm booking my first show ever in Vegas in just 2 months of being here.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. Right at that moment in my life, and this is getting a little bit more personal, I was dating someone that it kind of made me feel like, oh my gosh, this is it. I found it. This is what I want in my life. I can see a future together, etc., etc. But somehow it didn't work out. And actually, a couple of days after the audition is when we stopped seeing each other, and I went into quite a deep depression. So it was bittersweet. It was, on one side, I booked the show. On the other side, I lost this person, this relationship, which I really thought it was going to get really serious. So after the audition, of course, I had to go into a 2, 3 weeks of preparation, learning all the routines, all the repertoire of the show. And it was a moment of happiness and joy when I was rehearsing. But then once going back home, I just automatically went into that state of sadness, depression, sense of loss. And it was It wasn't really easy for me. But once I became part of the cast and I started performing, it was, I mean, I cannot even describe it. It was fulfilling. I think that it made it up to that loss that I just experienced and that depression that I was living. It was bittersweet. You know, I just lost something, but instead I gained something else. So that's it. Like I said, bittersweet.
Love it. It is amazing how life will throw us all sorts of crazy things, and you had two very big extremes in your life, and I can imagine both of them really played off of each other and led you to where you are now. And I also love that a couple times now you've said, I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I just kept doing it. You just kept moving forward and
Correct.
just blindly going forward. You're like, I know this is the right direction. I'm just moving. And I think there's such a massive takeaway there because so often us as entertainers, just as people living life, we tend to procrastinate or backpedal on things because it's scary or you're jumping into the unknown and you just don't need all of your ducks in the row all the time. You gotta just keep moving forward and good things happen. I mean, look at your entire story from being in Cuba to Istanbul to the USA. It's amazing. It's an amazing journey and you just kept moving forward. And I think there's so much to be learned from that.
Absolutely. Also, I would say planning things too much we can get in our heads and it kind of can mess up things sometimes. Just like I was saying earlier, everything happens for a reason. If you feel like you should do something, do it. Go for it. When you plan things and you create this expectation in your head and things don't go the way you want it, that's when frustration and disappointment comes along. I don't know exactly what I'm going to get into, but I've heard this and I've heard that. There's negative and positive. Let's live it my way. I want to live it my way. I want to experience it my way. I want to see how it goes for me. It doesn't go the same for everybody else. So listen to what other people say, but also experience it yourself. You can be extremely surprised.
I love that advice. Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now? What are you looking forward to? And of course, this is a weird time. We are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Well, right now, yeah, like you said, difficult times. Right now, I really, in this present moment, I don't have anything going on. Although, in the very near future, I'm going to be part of a magic show, Jack Alexander's magic show. So I'm thrilled about that. I'm very excited. I have never been part of a magic show. So, other than that, I would say I have been talking to a couple of friends that are actors and my entire life I've felt desire for being on TV, not only just on stage and humping around and doing moves and jumps, but also acting. It's something that have fascinated me my entire life, and I have been getting some advice from this a couple of friends. And right now, I'm more of a personal, or I would say auto auto instructor. I would say I watch a lot of TV shows. I go into YouTube. I watch tutorials and kind of just self training for a career as an actor. And then just my project of life. I'm right now deciding on what to do, which way to take now that I am not as young as I used to anymore. So that's why acting comes to my head. I would say that I want to learn the other side of the industry, not only being in front of a camera or on stage. I want to learn a little bit more of what it is being behind the scenes and behind the camera, learn what it is organizing, scheduling, becoming more of a assistant, coordinator, director, stuff like that.
Yeah, fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Oh my gosh. All right, let's do it.
Okay. First question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Honestly, nothing. Nothing was holding me back. Again, my mom is a performer. The image of my mom singing and playing the maracas and the bongo, it was just fascinating to me. It's the first thing I remember from her, and I think that once I discovered that I could actually sing when I was 8 years old, I just naturally did it. I went for it.
I love that. And the second question, what is something that is working for you right now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Modeling was working for me very well. I would say that I was booking way more jobs as a model as than as a dancer. I got to be in some commercials for restaurants and just spots on the hotels on the strip. I booked this major gig for the Strat since the Strat Hotel it's being they were in the state of renovation and just creating kind of a new refreshed image for the location. And besides that, well, of course, dancing is going to be always something that's going to work for me. But yeah, modeling was just the thing that was going on. So since I've been booking these jobs, I decided to step it up a little bit. So I became part of this agency in LA. It's called MV Models. They do have one spot here in Las Vegas and one spot in Los Angeles, and they started sending me gigs for way more exposure and for major brands. So that was definitely something very, very good going on for me.
Fantastic, fantastic. And the fourth question, what is the best resource? Whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, maybe a podcast, maybe some piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now.
That's a very hard one because, yeah, YouTube, TV shows. I mean, we have in our palm of our hands every single day, our phones, our iPads. All of it actually works um, in our careers right now. Once you go to YouTube and you get the opportunity to watch this choreography that this famous internationally known choreographer has just put out there just a few seconds ago, and you get to learn the combo or just see what is going on, what's the development that's going on in the dance community just seconds after that video was put out there in the cloud. TV shows, I would say, just because, as I mentioned, I have this desire of becoming an actor. So for me, it's kind of a school because I get to learn a lot of things on my own. Again, I would watch a scene. I would go to back to YouTube. I would watch this tutorial or a class. I mean, there's so much content out there, especially on YouTube, that people don't even know about. People think that you have to pay a certain amount of money, go to a class, get a personal coach, this and that. But yes, you are going to need that at some point. But YouTube is just a tool that you can use on the palm of your hands. You have it right there, and you may learn things that you think are worth a lot of money, but you got them right there for free.
Absolutely. I love YouTube. It is such a good resource for quite literally everything.
Yep.
And let's move on to the fifth question. If you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in the industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I would definitely do some things differently. I would say the first thing, it would be getting less in my head.
Yeah,
I am such a Libra. I just think too much and analyze things way too much. I get in my head. And yes, I look on the positive side, but I also look on the negative. And us as human beings, we tend to look more on the negative just because we have that instinct of self protection. So we don't want to fail. We don't want to do something that's gonna make us look bad, or it's gonna bring insecurity, even more insecurity in our lives. So yeah, getting less in my head, believing more in myself. I would say sometimes I would not go to an audition, or I would not just present myself physically, or send even my info through email, or just because I just thought that I wasn't fit for the job, or I was just not on that level. And then once I would go to auditions, I would say that I would be better prepared. I would be, let's say, my clothing. Sometimes I would show up to auditions and I would see everybody dressed in black or in a certain way, with certain shoes, certain pants, shorts, tank tops, haircut, makeup, stuff like that. And I just saw myself a little bit under prepared. So yeah, I will be better prepared.
Absolutely. And it's a good point that you bring up with going into audition rooms and notice people wearing certain clothes, people, different shoes, things like this. And
Mhm.
it's very good to know that different markets, whether that's LA or Vegas or New York or London, every market has its own little unique things that it does and the way people present themselves for the majority of auditions. And unfortunately, you just kind of have to go to the rooms and see what it is, but know that that is actually a thing. And the more that you can make sure that you are making yourself fit in to that scene and in that market, the better.
Correct.
And let's move on to the last question. What is the golden nugget knowledge drop you've learned from your successful career in the industry that you would like to leave with our listeners?
I've learned so many rich things of our industry. I could mention a bunch of them, honestly. But Golden Nugget for me, I think it didn't only help me in my personal life, but also my career, and it's confidence. You have to learn how to be confident. You have to somehow find that thing that makes you stand out and that makes you thrive over any obstacle. Let's say that you go to an audition, you're not properly well dressed. Maybe you're not even on the level of maybe uh, these jazz dancers or hip hop dancers. The confidence is what's gonna get you the job. Once you hit the steps, it doesn't matter your background, it doesn't matter what you actually are, what your base is, your confidence, showing it on your face, your energy, that's what's going to get you a job. Sometimes people that are judging auditions, they're looking for a certain look or a certain type of dancer. But sometimes they will look at that person that, oh my gosh, this person is maybe not the height that we're looking for, maybe not the look that we're looking for, but he or she is so confident, and she or he knows what he wants. So that desire, that fire that people see in you, it's what's going to get you the job. So confidence is key. Confidence is, I would say, my golden nugget. Just show who you are, be yourself, just give the best of you, and you will probably book the job.
Yeah, perfect. And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Of course. Well, I'm a social media user, and I use it mostly for work reasons. So yeah, you can find me on Instagram as Antonio Granda, on Facebook as Antonio Granda. I have a page which is connected to my Instagram, so everything I share on my Instagram goes on that page. And then my personal Facebook, it's Antonio E from Ulysses, E Granda Manzano. You can find me there, shoot me a message for bookings, anything, advice, anything that I can help with. Of course, I'm here, and I will try to be able to help as many as I can.
Fantastic. Antonio, it has been such a pleasure to have you on today. And for everyone listening out there, I will make sure that all his social media links are also in the description of this episode. But Antonio, it's been great to have you. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dane.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.